Hi, Paul. Thank you guys for joining us today. My name is Emilio Navarro. I'm from Spain. I live in Dublin and I have the great opportunity to interview Paul weekly. He is my mentor and I want to know a bit more how he works and so I can move forward in my life. And I decided that the best way to do that is to have a chat, an interview with him and get the best of his skills, and now he will be able to share that skills with you as well. So hi Paul, how are you today?
Hi, Emilio. I'm great, thank you. Lovely to be with you on this call.
Thanks for joining me and for accepting that interview. So let's start, and I'm just curious to know, like, how long have you been coaching?
Well, somebody asked me that, Emilio, and I had to think hard about it because I was thinking, well, the last maybe 10 or 15 years. And then somebody said to me one day, Paul, you've probably been coaching all your life.
Yes.
And I thought, well, maybe they're right. In some way or other, I've been helping people because I like doing it. It just seems to come naturally. But so how long is probably most of my life? More formally, the last, say, 15 years, maybe.
Wow, that's a long time, and if we count all your life, it seems that you've been having a great time doing it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I really do enjoy helping people, and each individual has so much inside them. It's almost like you just need to tap into it a little bit and help them ease it out and be the best person they can be. And that's what I aim to do.
So, what would you say that really motivates you? Like seeing the results, helping the other people, and seeing them making progress, or what's that spark that keep you pushing
I
and
just
moving?
love it. I just love it when I see them grow. I see them, they get something, and suddenly, when I'm coaching them, I see their physiology change and the way they look. They suddenly change. I see it dawn on them that there's a new way of being. They have a new opportunity, some choices. Before they were stuck, and now they have some open possibilities. And I usually work with them to help them think about the consequences of each um, choice that they might make, and then allow them to choose the one they think will be best for them.
Wow, that's brilliant. Like, I think you already more or less asked answered that, but like before was like when did you started to say 15 years ago, like did you were you working in a company before and then you moved, how that transition happened that you decided, okay, from today I will be maybe a coach? Does it took you a year, a day?
Okay, well, I've s- I've had my own business for a long time, helping mostly larger organisations through change. So as a business change specialist in the corporate world, as it were, and often I would get in a situation where either the senior people that were supposed to lead the change, or even some of the more junior people, were really struggling, and they just needed some help. They were stuck a bit on how to go about things, and especially the leaders, how they needed to be in order to be inspiring to the people around them, in order for them to lead the change well and make a difference. So I typically ended up just informally sometimes helping coach people in an informal way without saying, look, I'm going to coach you. I just used to talk to them and help them through the difficulties. And that's kind of how I started. And then I was asked to work with teams of people, often the management team of an organization or a big chunk of an organization, where the team wasn't working very well together. So helping them become a good team with
Mhm.
some good lead. And sometimes one or maybe two of the leaders in the team were struggling to come along with the rest of them. So I would talk to them quietly on one side and just say, ask them to think about some of the things they could do to make things better. And that's how my coaching kind of
Oh,
started. And then I thought, I love doing this. So I started to more formally coach people one to
wow.
one. And that's how it began.
Yes, sounds like it's like embedded in your DNA that coaching is your passion and your way of living. Like it's I imagine like coaching the big companies and getting them involved and talking with the big leaders. It give you a lot of overview of dealing with difficult situations, and then bring that to your clients nowadays, like one to one.
Yeah, there are a lot of difficult situations, and actually, when I look back, Emilio, it's like I had in my life, I've had some difficult situations to deal with, and throughout those times, there's always been somebody that I've discovered or came forward to help me, and they, in their helping me, they really helped me with some tools and techniques that I realised that there are different ways to look at things, different ways to do things. And a guy, funnily enough, when I was at the gym quite a few years ago now, I was in the jacuzzi and I sat next to this guy, and I thought he's a funny looking guy, and we sat there and we just said hello, and there's all the bubbles. You imagine us sitting there just relaxing, all the bubbles coming up, and I'm thinking, this is a strange place to meet people. But this guy, we got chatting, and then I discovered he helped organisations through change. He actually helps families through change, families who are struggling to get on with each other and maybe have a difficult child or even a difficult parent. And I started to learn things from him, and we became great friends. And
Wow.
still now that he and I coach each other, for me, he inspires me because I feel he's learnt more, a lot more than I have. So I look up to him in the way that he coaches me. But I learned so much from him in a very short space of time that I realised that, maybe within all of us we have the ability to help other people, and sometimes learning a few tools and techniques can really help us. But it's like at those difficult times in my life, there were people there that really helped me, just sometimes by just listening, sometimes by asking a very, very deep question that just kind of stopped me in my tracks and made me really think about something. And I thought, wow, I never thought of it like that. Or they'd tell me a story. They'd tell me a story with a metaphor or a meaning in it, and I'd think, wow. And I'd get something from it. Sometimes I didn't. I'd hear the stories, or I'd read a book with stories in it about how people helped each other. I never always got it the first time. Sometimes I discovered it takes people more than one time to get something, But all the time I was learning more and more. And the more I coached and the more I was coached, the more I learned. And then the more I realized I didn't know, the more I realized there still was to learn. So I always feel like I help other people a lot, and there are still other people that help me, and I'm still growing. And if I can continue to grow and help other people at the same time and help them grow, how great is that?
I can see that you are already started to do coaching without doing coaching. You know what I mean? Like, just with the answer this question, I think you pointed out something. I think it's very important that sometimes if we really look around us, we'll find someone where we can learn from, or we can get that push or that thing that we need, and sometimes it's closer than we expect. Sometimes can be on the jacuzzi, sometimes maybe can be in the supermarket. And I agree with you. I believe on that always there is someone next to you that can give you that push and help that we really need in that moment.
Yeah, you know
So,
what? And sometimes, Emilio, even more recently, somebody I've been coaching more recently, I actually learnt a huge amount from them. They don't know it really, but the way I was trying to coach them, when something works, it's great. But I was doing some coaching with them, and I realised the method I used, it wasn't the best thing I could have done for them, and they actually kind of held me to task on it. They challenged me on it, and I thought, wow, this is really really a challenge, and I need to find another way to deal with this. So I asked them about it. I asked them how they felt about the way that I coached them, and I really got some learning from it. I can't really share it because it's a private thing between myself and them, but it really made me think about the way I was coaching. So there's always something new to learn about it.
yeah, I think that here again, like I can see that you are talking about something very important. That's to be open, to be flexible, to be ready for change. It's, I think, one of the skills that I learned from you. To see other things from other point of view, and listen around and be ready and open, because the opportunities will be there, and it's all about feedback, from other people, and knowing how to deal with it.
It is indeed, and when we get into the most difficult situations in our lives, it's just a situation. Some people, say for example, have a client who they lost their job. Well, it's and it could be terrible. It could be the worst time of their life, and it could be the best time of their life. Depends how they choose to look at it. In fact, it's turned out to be the best time of their life because they got a big payoff when they made redundant, and now they have the opportunity to do what they really wanted to do for years, and they have a bit of cash to start doing it as well. Yeah. So a situation is just a situation, and there's always a choice. There's always a choice about how you deal with it.
Yeah. Can you, now that you mentioned the choice, you actually have talk about the possibility of choice, the use of the word choice. How do you, when you coach someone, how do you explain them that the word choice, because the word choice itself is so neutral, it doesn't place any right or wrong meaning, that it's very powerful. Can you explain a bit more
okay.
about that?
If I'm reading you right, Emilio, I mean, what I do is, I may not even use the word choice as such, but what I would do is say, you've got a situation, what might be your options? And I use the word might. I don't use the word should, must, could, or whatever, but it's just might. So to get people, just teasing them out of where they're at, to start opening up possibility. The word might creates possibility. And my work, I've given it the name of How Might We, as you know, at howmightwe.co.uk. So I always use the phrase how might we, so how might you do something. So I ask them to think, okay, this is a situation, what might you do? And they come up with something, and I say, okay, that's good. What else might you do? And they come up with maybe something else, and then I say, okay, good, so what else might you do? And then they often get a little bit frustrated. Paul, what are you doing? It's like, I've got, I know what I want to do. I don't want this. So I say, hang on, just play with it a bit. So I said, what else might you do? Okay, so we end up with maybe 3, 4, 5 possibilities, and a couple of things there, probably a bit, the ones that were further down the line were things that they hadn't originally thought about. And then I say to them, okay, let's take each one of those. So if you did that option, what might happen if you do that option? What kind of thing is going to happen? So we look at the consequences of that option. And then option 2, what are the consequences of that option? And 3, and so on. And then I get them to figure out, okay, what do you like best out of those options? And it may be they like one particular option better than the others, or they may like a combination. They might cherry pick from the options and say, well, I actually like a bit of that and a bit of that. And so the other thing I always say to people is, most of the time things aren't mutually exclusive. You can combine them. You don't have to have one option or the other option. It may be there's a bit of both options you can have. So getting them to consider what the possibilities are, and then they now have a choice of which option that they follow, and probably more choices than they had when they started. And if they are really stuck and they can't think of options, I get them to pretend, imagine they're Superman. What would Superman do in this situation? Imagine they're the Queen. If they were the Queen, what would the Queen do in this situation? If they were a bus driver, what would a bus driver do in this situation? Just something to take them out of themselves. So what I'm doing with them is to open their box that they've limited themselves in, to step outside it and see their situation from a different perspective. One good one is to say to them, is there somebody that you know, past or present, that you really respect the opinion of? And if they were looking down at you now, or if they were with you now, what might they say to you about this situation? What would be the most important thing they could say to you in this situation? And most people have somebody that they really respect like that, either past or present. and they come up with something. They start to think like that person, and think, yeah, they would say to me, Paul, this is whatever, yeah. This is just like, or why don't you, have you thought about doing this? And they say, oh yeah. So now they've got not only their own thoughts and some options we've generated, but also the thoughts of someone they really respect. So they've now got another option from somebody who could see it completely outside of their situation. And it opens up more possibilities, more choice. Has that answered your question about choice?
It does absolutely well. Yeah, very useful information there and amazing. Yeah, it's that actually answers as well my next question. That was, what's your favorite question? That how might we? Like probably
Yeah,
no that.
yeah. I did a lot of work with creativity and innovation, and with an organisation based out of Canada. There's a great guy out there, Ambassador with something called applied creativity that he has, a process. And I used to work with businesses, and I still use it. I use it in my coaching. I use it all the time without even thinking now. It's in one of the tools in my treasure chest. And it's all about discovering new possibilities. So when you've got a situation, why do you want to do something? And then what's stopping you doing it? And the questions, the phrasing of the questions is all about how might we, how else might we do this, or why else might this be happening, why else might this be happening. And it's a way of laterally thinking laterally, coming outside of where you are to give you a whole new range of rich possibilities that you can use to solve the situation that you're in. And that's why I chose to call my organization How Might We.
No, it's like I personally been coached by Paul, and I remember that moment where I was struggling with choices, and there was only one solution, and I was like screaming like crazy. And yeah, after 20 minutes asking that question and Paul being patient with me, we managed to find like more than 4 or 5 different ways to solve the issue that I was dealing in. So certainly I can say that that system really works really well.
Oh, thank you, Emilio.
No, it's true. Yeah, like I was curious, like, do you work with all the clients the same? Like the way, for example, when you start a session, it starts more or less the same thing. Do you build report, or do you say send some questions? How do you work for the people who may be interested in working with you and would
Oh,
like to
okay,
know?
yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, well, I like to get to know someone really quite well, and although I coach a lot on the phone and over Skype, I do like to meet a person if I possibly can for the first, what I call the discovery session. And what I like to do is to, obviously, to build rapport. Of course, it's very important. Like, with anybody, they need to feel that we can get along. And if for some reason, I'll be honest, if for some reason we don't get along, I just say to them, look, maybe I'm not the right person to help you. And I've never had that, but I would, it's always there. So I think it's important to have somebody coaching you that you trust and you believe in. And what I do, so I'm building rapport and getting to know them, and I want to know them what I call holistically. So, people often come to me with something. I had a client come to me with a business problem that he had, and actually, when I learned more about him and asked him about his family and his life, and I actually discovered his problem wasn't really about his business. It was actually more about his personal life and relationships. So what I wanted to know was, I wanted to get an understanding of where he came from, what was important to him, what did he value, what were his values and beliefs, and where in his life weren't those values and beliefs being supported. And was it that relationships that were difficult? Was it his business? Was it finances? I just wanted to know the whole picture, so that I could understand the whole person, his family, his friends, without this, not to take too long on it, maybe three-quarters of an hour, about 45 minutes, just to know and get that person to talk to me about their situation and explain to me a little bit about what's going on in their life, and it just gives me a more complete picture. And I'm a great person for drawing mind maps, and in my head I'll be drawing a mind map, and I don't normally make notes. I don't normally write in front of somebody because I think it's a bit distracting for them, but I make notes afterwards if I need to. But normally, once they've told me, I remember quite a lot if they tell me the story of their life and where they're at. And then once I've understood where they're at, what I like them to do is to share with me a vision of where they would like to be, and how they would like their life to be, and if we did work together on something, so that I was coaching them, that where would they like that to at the end of the coaching session, what would they like to be different? How would they like to be acting and doing differently, and what would they have that they wouldn't have now? And it's to get them to visualize that future, almost like a perfect future. What would their perfect future look like if they could have it? And then I understand now where they are, and I start to understand where they will be. And I may even get them to draw that future in some way, or write a poem about it, or sing a song about it, or tell a story about it. Yeah? Whatever's the important thing for me, Emilio, is that it's whatever is good for that person, whatever works for that person. I like mind maps. Not everybody likes mind maps. Some people like to sing. You probably wouldn't want to hear me. You wouldn't want to hear me sing. But whatever it is, whatever works for them, however they want to express themselves. Some people love walking. A lot of my clients, we go for coaching walks rather than just sitting somewhere. We actually, if it's nice out, we go for a walk and we coach. We walk and talk. And as you know, I actually run some Monday morning motivation walk and talk sessions with a small group of people to help them get motivated for the week in their business. So people like the movement is good. People getting into action to movement. It starts their brain working better and their breathing better. Some of the things I do to prepare myself to work with a client is just make sure that I'm in a good state in myself. So, I get up fairly early in the morning, and I usually do something to get my state up. Like I may go for a jog, or do a bit of yoga, or just make sure that I've breathed some fresh air and I'm up and ready to work with that person, so that I'm completely active and ready to listen. And I know you mentioned about, I think you may have mentioned in the past to me about how do I stay so patient, but for me, patience is easy. If I get my state right and I breathe, because with my yoga practice, I've learned to really breathe well. So just getting people, if I'm calm, if I'm patient, then the person with me is going to be calm, and they're going to be ready to be open and flexible and relaxed.
Yeah. So you said, because that's that was my next question. Like, I saw you like being very patient, and your tonality always is like, I know you for a year, and I always like, when to stop, when to ask the questions, and keep like this calmness. Is amazing, and I was. Would you say that the secret is only yoga, or would you?
I think the secret for me, Emilio, will be different from the secret from you or from somebody else. It's whatever keeps you calm and grounded. As I say, I had some really not so nice things happen in my life, and I've learned to just be so pleased to have what I have in my life, and to not to worry about having too much more. It's just value what you have, and it's like, for me, there's no point getting over excited about something, if you can't do anything about it. So the calmer I am, the more likely I am to come up with good ideas or good ways to deal with things. The yoga helps me. The breathing from the yoga, because a lot of people may not realize that yoga is about the union of the mind, the breath, and the body. And so when you look at people doing it, you don't realize that they're actually very focused on their breathing, even so much that we restrict our throat so that we can hear our breath in the back of our throat.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, and also just generally, I try and eat healthily. So what I put into my body, I believe is can make a difference. I'm not 100% on it because I love a bit of chocolate now and again or a Chinese takeaway now and again.
Yeah.
But generally, I eat fairly healthily, and a low consumption of alcohol. I hardly drink anything apart from an odd glass of wine with a meal or an odd beer occasionally. But mostly, I try and put fairly pure things into my body and try and put pure things into my mind as well. So when I'm thinking about I always think the best of somebody else until they prove otherwise. I look for the best in everything. It doesn't always work, but
Yeah.
that's my intention. I put that intention there. So.
I think you cover quite a lot there. From yoga, the importance of yoga and breathing, the importance of eating well, and maybe not drinking too much, and it's just absolutely correct. And I think most of the times is the key to keep moving ourselves and have these positive thoughts that you mentioned there. So, like, maybe my last question will be like, I think maybe you covered already. Like, sometimes it's like you seems like you have unlimited resources of ideas. Like I told.
Like what did you say?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I think we commented a few times. Like we start talking. Like and conversation happen and synchronization happen. What do you think is the source of inspiration of your unlimited resources of ideas and advice? Or
Yeah, I might. Well, I hadn't really noticed it exactly, but I suppose maybe the gift is that if I ask the right questions, that I bring out the resources that the person I'm coaching already has. So if I can ask the right questions and get them, so if I understand them holistically, I help them be relaxed with me. I ask them some powerful questions because I am sure that they have the resources within them already to deal with the situation they're in. They just need to let it out, yeah? They almost just need to let it out. And if they're struggling in some way, if I can calm them down and get them to think more rationally about it or irrationally about it on purpose, just to have a bit of fun, because the more fun somebody has, the more likely they are to come up with some ideas.
yeah,
I suppose it's, I'm trying to think what I tend to, people say to me that I'm perhaps more intuitive than the average guy.
uh,
And maybe I am, and maybe I'm not. It's hard to know when
I think so.
yeah, when when if you're good at something, it's hard to realize that
Yeah,
you're really good at it. People I know, I think they're fantastic at something. How
yeah,
can they do that? And they don't even know they're good at it. And that's the sign that they've mastered it, and they're how do we call it?
yeah. It's
Uh,
natural.
un, unconsciously competent. I think is it? Yeah, it's just natural. They don't even
Yeah,
have to think about it. They just do it.
yeah. It's like
Um,
like walking. It comes.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, in my family, for example, um, I realised that we're all pretty good organisers, and somebody said to me, "Paul, you're really good at organisers. You're so organised. How do you do that?" And I thought, well, sometimes I feel completely disorganised, and then I realised I'm probably comparing myself with my sister, who's even more organised than me. My dad was a very organised guy, and then so we have a kind of natural ability to do those things, whereas other people have just a natural. Some other people are naturally spontaneous. They're really spontaneous in any situation. It just comes naturally. They're automatically funny or humorous or lively. So it's just. So I guess,
yeah.
yeah. I'm trying to think how the best. I don't
Yeah.
feel I've really answered your question about.
No, I think I understand. I think we had this chat in this at some. I think at some level, like because it happens to me as well sometimes, a bit like you that it's I saw you doing it. It's like you can tap on the thought of the person before the person is gonna talk. So it's kind of like you can see where the see or hear, because sometimes we only talk on Skype, but you can sub level, you can recognize in which level is that person or situation, and you just can extract that information before the other person can see it. And with the questions, you just manage the person to see it, and yourself you just can, let's say, you can read, people's mind.
Well, it's yeah, it's sort of it's like a lot of it comes with practice, I think, because I've been doing this for such a long time now with so many different people that um, I can hear, like, I know when someone comes on the phone what kind of mood they're in, and a lot of people can do this. Not just me, but a lot of people can do it. But some people don't tune into that. You can hear the tonality of somebody's voice. You can hear in the speed of their voice, especially if you know that person already. You know when they're off track. You know they're not right. And I love it if I'm delayed in an airport. This is a choice again. If I get delayed, if the plane is delayed, and I think, oh great, I can sit and people watch now for an hour or two, because I think, wow. So when I look at people, even from a distance, if people are talking to each other, I can tell if they're getting on or not. You just look at the body language and the speed and whether they're matching each other. A lot of people can do this. It's not just me, but it's like, and it's the same with that. That's one reason I like to meet the person I'm coaching just the once at the beginning, so I know a little bit about them, and I can hear their voice and see at the same time, because a lot of the coaching is about changes in physiology as well. But you can, I can do it on the phone or on Skype, because I can hear the changes in their voice and the change in their breathing, which sounds a bit weird, but somebody gave me a tip once. This is a little story. If you want to get served in a bar, and there's loads of people trying to get served in the bar, just match the breathing and the blinking of the person that's serving behind the bar. Just match them. Just watch them all the time, and notice their breathing and their pace. Some people are very fast paced and jog around, and other people are slow. Just match their pace and try and tune into their breathing and their timing of their breath and their blink rate, and also hold a £10 note out as well, so they know you want to buy something. But it's just, if you tune into them and follow them with your eyes around, and just make sure they can see you, you'll get served before other people will. It doesn't always work, but it's pretty good, I tell you. And somebody taught me that, and I thought, wow. And that's really, if you know anything about mirroring and matching people and building rapport, that's what it's all about. You're tuning into somebody. And the important thing, I suppose, the other thing I would say is that what I've learned is that when you're coaching somebody, rather than worrying about what's the question I should ask, is really focus on them. Be almost like you're inside them. Just try and just be as though, pretend you're them almost, and the question will come. Well, this is the way I operate. The question will come to you. You'll be thinking so much like they are and where they're at and what, because you've learned about their life. And when they're talking about it, you can start to sense, because you can see how they're moving and how they're talking. And it's like, try to get in that space with them. I find it can be quite exhausting coaching, actually, because once I've done something really deep with someone, I do feel a little bit exhausted sometimes. But it's because I've kind of got in there with them and sensed where they're at, and then asked them the question that I think will help them the most. And that's really what I'm trying to do, to help them answer their own questions and solve their own situations.
I think that's a brilliant answer for my question, and the best way to end up this interview with these two great tips, like how to order fast in a restaurant. And totally agree. When we are coaching, I focus on that person, and your unconscious mind will give you the answers and the solutions that we are looking for. Thank you very much, Paul, for your time and for so much insight. And I think you guys out there listening this recording, you're gonna get a lot of value from that call. And looking forward for our next call. I think you mentioned a few topics there that we'll come up with another interview or a little explanation on what can we do more. Anything else, Paul, that we'd like to say before we finish the call?
Emilio, just thank you for the opportunity, and I love your questions.
Thank you.
And so, and I'm looking forward to chatting again soon. And thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks, guy.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye bye.